Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. So don't get acclimated to this. It's not going to be daily uploads, but I did have some time. It is the day off still at work, so I'm going to take advantage of it and do a little follow-up to my last video. A lot of you have had a chance to check it out. If you haven't had the chance already, I'll include a link in the description for you so that you can check it out as well. It's pertaining to $3.5 million Pokemon, Logan Paul case, and a lot of questions related to the provenance and things related to it. And I did reference in that video a YouTuber named Rattle Pokemon who has already been doing a lot of digging and is already on the third part of a series uncovering different aspects of the case. Now, in the original video from yesterday, I covered part 1 and part 2 because those were out, but part 3 didn't come out until yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to see it until after I had recorded the first video. The good news is there isn't too much in terms of updating things. He does add some more stuff into it that gives a little bit more suspicions about, the provenance of the case and everything, and also some back and forth he did with some of the people involved that only makes it sketchier. It makes it even more questionable and brings additional questions about, are these people, do they already know that there's something wrong with this thing, and thou doth protest too much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to include a link to the third part if you're curious. A lot of it is mostly drama filled, so if you do enjoy that, that'll be fun for you. But I do want to make reference to it as well. So here's the video in question. More Wrong with Logan Paul, Pokemon First Edition Base Booster Case, Episode 3. So we're going to give that thing a like. It is about 43 minutes long. So like I said, if you want it for most of the entertainment value, it's certainly worth a watch. I do recommend it. But at the same time, if you just want a lot of the details, they were pretty well covered in the second part. Like I said, the initial background and some of the first questions were covered in the first part. The second part, I think, is the most extensive as far as breaking down some of the main questions pertaining to the case itself. But one thing I want to bring up here, and like I said, this third part talks about a couple more things related to it, a couple more questions, gives a little bit more information. He's doing a very good job with a lot of this stuff in terms of uncovering different pieces that bring question into it. But part of the reason I say I don't want to forget the bigger picture, and part of the reason I'm bringing up this update, is that one thing that I mentioned in the last video, and I want to make sure I emphasize in this video as well, is that the fact that Logan Paul may end up opening up the case to check it under the auspices of baseball card exchange is all well and good. But like I said, I don't want to lose the bigger picture here. And that is, let's say they open up the case and let's say they were able to successfully confirm that inside of it are sealed boxes of, first edition Pokemon. Great, all well and good. And like I said, it'll come back around to why I'm even touching on it, considering it's not really related to sports cards. Assuming they do that, some people are going to claim victory. They're going to be, they're going to claim vindication. And it's like, actually, no, I can't say you did. Because here's the truth. It is important that, there is some first edition base set booster boxes inside of it. That's good. That's a good thing. But it doesn't actually absolve everybody, because the whole idea here is that you're paying $3.5 million not for a bunch of booster boxes. You're actually paying $3.5 million for the idea that it was supposed to be a factory sealed case. And just because the booster boxes are inside, it then brings into question why all the shadiness was done in the first place. But then secondly, assuming they're inside, again, we're assuming best case scenario for them. The fact is the case still doesn't feel like it's accurate. There's a lot of those issues that came up with it that still lead to question is, if you take a bunch of booster boxes and put it inside of a cereal box case, it doesn't make it a factory sealed case just because the booster boxes inside are legitimate. So my point is that the fact that Baseball Card Exchange authenticated it, even if they don't have warranties, even if they really don't have a lot of expertise in it, well, then they shouldn't have been authenticating it in the first place. That's the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that Baseball Card Exchange is, are basically our only main authority. It's PSA uses them for packs. They're considered to be the authentication gurus as far as a lot of this is concerned. And it is very disturbing from the hobby perspective, considering the amount of sealed material that they basically vouch for, that they would even touch something like this with questionable provenance. They didn't bother to do any research in it. A lot of the stuff that Rattle Pokemon brings up could probably have been figured out with a Google search. That's actually not a good thing. That it's something that low tier could have been figured out, at least enough to question it, at least enough to force you to kind of go like, wait a minute, the provenance is a little questionable. The chain of custody that got us to this point is a little questionable. There's some serious issues here. So as I said, opening up the case and finding legitimate booster boxes is not actually going to absolve this. The only way you absolve it is to find legitimate booster boxes in it and be able to figure out why the case seems completely off, why the tape seems completely off, why the label seems completely off. All these things that you can't fix by just opening the box. So that's kind of the main point here. You're not going to fix this problem by simply opening the case, although it'll help to at least validate that there's some real unopened material inside the box. But it doesn't change the fact the box doesn't seem like it's actually the original factory sealed case, based on a lot of the evidence and a lot of the questions that are brought up from the whole sequence of events that led up to Logan Paul getting it in the first place. So if I was Logan Paul, that would be like the bare minimum outcome that I would want to make sure that the stuff inside is real. But at the same time, I would still have to look around and go like, why did nobody even question this beyond the bare minimum? And it was just, as quickly as we can, let's hot potato this thing out of here. Because you got to remember, the original seller sold it to somebody who then sold it to Logan Paul. So it already got moved twice. As quickly as is humanly possible, everybody hot potatoed the thing. If it was legitimate, wouldn't somebody have wanted to be able to take advantage and capitalize on this themselves? Because there's a lot of opportunity with that. The good news for Logan Paul probably is if he does end up opening it up, even with Baseball Card Exchange, I'm sure he'll be able to make a YouTube video out of it and recuperate some of his money. It'll be interesting to see what happens if they're able to validate the boxes, but at the same time, the case seems to be still suspect. If there's any kind of a partial refund or something related to that, I'd be curious to see what happens with that. So I did want to make sure I included this as an update since the third part has come out, and we'll see down the road if a fourth part comes out as a result of it. Now, since I got you here, I'm going to do one more thing here since this one just came up a little bit earlier today. It's, as you can see there, it shows 2 hours ago as of the time I'm recording this. So the Mint Collective had been promoting their thing heavily coming up here in the next couple of weeks in January. But now, because of concerns with Omicron, they're going to push back the Mint Collective to March 25th to the 27th. So it'll be interesting to see if that has any impact on a lot of the vendors and speakers. It would have been interesting to see because I did mention that Jeremy from Beckett was going to be a speaker in it. I did reference it in the live stream. It would have been kind of entertaining. It's like, now we have to wait until March to hear from Beckett? Oh, man. We continue. It's like, I don't know. The conspiracy's on, my friends. This is a Beckett conspiracy to avoid actually talking to us. We did see the image. I don't think Jeremy was ready to talk, but now I'll be curious to see if there's another avenue or venue for him to say something, or for Beckett to say something in general. But there were going to be other speakers. There were going to be other panels. There were going to be a variety of different things, and it would have been very interesting to see from a content perspective. Now, Vegas in March is not too bad at all. I wouldn't complain if I was them. But at the same time, it'll be interesting to see if that has any impact on a lot of the vendors or folks that were planning on attending. Because once you get into March and April, then we start getting into some shows in some different areas. I did reference that even for Steve Menzie. They're going to have, I think, the Strongville show. They're going to have in Cleveland right around that time. So that's a thing. So they're going to have a card show there at that point. And obviously around the country, they're going to have different card shows and things going on. So we'll see. There's obviously a lot of different folks that were already promoted to being there. I expect that most of them will probably still be able to attend, but it's going to be rescheduling a lot of different folks, and that's a lot of moving parts. So that may have a little bit of an impact. But I did want to make sure I at least reference it here since we did have everything already set up. So that's it this time around. Just another little video, just updating what I did previously on it. We'll keep an eye on it and see if there are any additional developments as far as that's concerned. Like I mentioned earlier, my big takeaway, I want to make sure that I covered that, was that Baseball Card Exchange still authenticates something that still has questionable provenance. There's still the open question about whether that case itself is legitimate or not. There's enough smoke here that I think there's some fire, and that's problematic given, like I said, the standing of Baseball Card Exchange in the unopened, grading authentication game. Well, authentication more than grading, but the fact that they would even agree to seal and basically validate this thing with all the question marks around it is problematic. It's one of those things where it doesn't take much to dissolve trust. And Baseball Card Exchange's record is not perfect. It's not flawless. Few people are, though, in fairness, because it is tricky to validate that kind of thing and authenticate properly. But entering into a realm you don't know, even if it's a big money deal, entering into a realm you don't know and agreeing to authenticate something that has as many question marks as this case had, because even if not being an expert, you look at it, there's some things that seemed off about it in the first place, but then even consulting some folks that have even a minimum amount of understanding in it brought additional questions. That's not the good look. I don't think it'll hurt them too much in the long run because, like everything else, everything in the hobby gets swept under the rug. No one will care in a month. But for now, at least, we should at least keep in mind that there's simply opening the case is not going to resolve this issue. It's only the beginning of what's going to be a process in figuring out what happened with this thing. And we may never find out fully, but at least it'll be entertaining in the meantime for some of us. Anyway, that's it for me this time around. Like if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't to the channel. We will do other videos and things on the channel, as well as the live streams on Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, appreciate you hanging out and checking it out. We'll catch you in the next one.